dimakan api, apinya canculupan. Bengkok dimakan api, apinya canculupan. Jari kaki sintak, dahulu akan masak. Jari kaki sintak, dahulu akan masak. Ampar-ampar pisang, pisangku belum masak. Masak sabigi di hurung bari-bari. Masak sabigi di hurung bari-bari. Menggaricak, menggaricak,
Sule segera kendangane.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second day of International Conference on Health Sciences that held by the Faculty of Health Sciences, UIN Syarif Hidayatullah, Jakarta.
Recording in progress.
I am Dinda Fabriana.
And I am Irzan Salampesi.
We are more than happy to meet you again in this International Conference on Health Sciences.
We hope everyone enjoyed the concurrent session yesterday. We would like to once again thank all the speakers, moderators, and participants.
Today, we will start our agenda with another plenary session that will be moderated by Mrs. Dewi Utami Iriani, PhD.
We will first read a brief introduction about our moderator today. Her full name is Dewi Utami Iriani. She was graduated from Program Doctoral, Department of Epidemiology and Environmental Health, Jutendo University in Japan. She is a member team of Interprofessional Education, Faculty of Health Science, UIN Jakarta from 2020 until present. She is a member of Public Health Alumni Association from 2019 until present. She has published 12 publications, and she is also active in community service as an educator. Without further ado, we invite Mrs. Dewi Utami Iriani, PhD, to take over the plenary sessions. The time is yours.
Thank you, Dinda and Irzan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Respectable Professor Dr. Haji Amanu Lubis, Master of Art, Rector UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Honorable Dr. Zilhadia, Master of Science Pharmacist, Dean of Faculty of Health Science, UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Vice Dean, Faculty of Health Science, lecturers, and all participants of this virtual conference. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to second day of ICHS. This is the second international conference on health sciences held by Faculty of Health Science, Syarif Hidayatullah Islamic State University, Jakarta. Salawat and salam we send to Messenger of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. My name is Dewi Utami Iriani, and I'm very pleased to have you here and welcome of you to this conference. I'm going to be a moderator in this plenary session. We have amazing four invited speakers. Allow me to welcome the invited speakers. There are Dr. Min Sarnawati, Dr. Eni Nuraini, Dr. Putri Amalia, and Professor Omar Hasan Kasole, who will join us later on. First, I would like to greet Dr. Min Sarnawati. Hello, Dr. Min Sarnawati. Are you with us?
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Good. And then Dr. Eni Nuraini, are you with us also?
Yes. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And last, Dr. Putri Amelia. Hello. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Putri.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you for already been here. Okay, we will hear our invited speaker till the next 2 hours. And you, all the speakers, will talk around 30 minutes. And after 3 speakers have presented their presentation, we will have discussion for about 20 minutes. And for your information, there has been about 50 participants in Zoom room, and also in offline, about 20 participants. They are researchers and also students. And audience can ask questions in QA session You can type the question in the chat box, and don't forget to mention who you are asking, and I will read them for you later on. All right, we are going to our first speaker. I'm going to invite Dr. Minsan Nawati. First of all, I will read your profile. Committee, please. Show the curriculum vitae of Dr. Minsan Nawati. Dr. Minsan Nawati, Master of Public Health. She is a lecturer and researcher from Department of Public Health, Faculty of Health Science, Syarif Hidayatullah, Islamic State, Jakarta. Works in UIN since 2009. She took Bachelor, Master, and also Doctor of Public Health, Faculty of Public Health, Hasanuddin University. Her research focus on mother and child health, non-communicable disease. Her major interest has been public health issues such as maternal care and community, nutrition and child growth, childhood infection disease, and poverty community. I have noticed there are 13 papers have been published. Her last title paper is Spatial Distribution of Tuberculosis in the Western Region of Java Island, Indonesia. In this opportunity, she will share to us about spatial variation and determinants of stunting in toddler in Indonesia. Okay, Dr. Minsan Nawati, are you ready? You have 30 minutes to share your presentation, and now the time is yours. Please.
Okay, can I share screen my presentation or community?
You can share your screen.
Okay. Can you see my presentation, moderator?
Not yet. Still in processing.
Okay, thank you.
Now it's okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's Mr. Mai giving you about variation of spatial and determinant stunting in children under 5 in Indonesia. My outline in introduction, method, result, conclusion, and recommendation. Okay, introduction, stunting, chronic malnutrition, low height or age. Special may focus or research in children under 5 in Indonesia. Different types of undernutrition for stunting, low height for age. Impact stunting for children, shortness, linear growth retardation. The problem of nutrition in the main cause of childhood illness. Stunting cause potential limited growth in children. Children who suffer from stunting more likely risk degenerative disease when they adult. And then the impact of stunting affect the level of intelligence of children. In the 3 regions, stunting affect 1 in every 3 children. Global, 21.9%, and region Asia and Africa. Asia, 55%, and Africa, 39%. In 2018, more than half of all stunting children under 5 live in Asia, and more than 1/3 live in Asia. prevalence of stunting in children under 5 in Indonesia to 2019. This figure, the map zone, red zone, yes, this most district or city, most prevalence, 30 to 14%. Objective, the study aimed to find out the severity of the stunting problem using spatial analysis in each district city during 2007, 2013, and 2018, which is described by color zone, red, orange, yellow, and green. To find out the most important determinant in stunting in children under 5 in province with the lowest, the moderate, and highest prevalence in 2007, 2013, and 2018 using data mining analysis is random forest. 3. Design a stunting projection map for children under 5 in Indonesia based on district city level in 2020, 2023, and 2026. So, this step of is and analyze secondary data. The study's cross-section data were obtained from the Indonesian Basic Health Survey in 2007, 2013, and 2018. Sample is 2007, where 60,383 households from 440 district cities. Well into 2013, there were 49,651 households from 497 district cities, and in 2018 were 44,095 sources from 518 district cities. The dependent variable in stunting in children under 5 years old is 154,420 examples. Data analysis uses spatial analysis and data mining analysis is random forest. Statistic application ICHS and RStudio. Turning off attention now to my result. 1. Distribution of severity of the stunting problem in children under 5 in Indonesia based on district city area data. Map of distribution and degree stunting problem in children under 5 in Indonesia 2007 by district or city. Let's show in this figure. Most district and city they are very high level. Is 52%. Next, to 2013, map a distribution degree stunting problem in children under 5 in Indonesia to 2013 by district city. Very high level turn discrete for 44%. And then distribution of severity of stunting problem in children under 5 in Indonesia 2018 by district or city. Very high level is red zone, discrete 21%. Change in the distribution pattern and degrees of stunting problem in children under 5 in Indonesia 2007 to 2018. This map of change in stunting prevalence in children under 5 in Indonesia. Red color is increased 30 level from yellow, from red to yellow, and white decrease 1 level. In Kalimantan Island is red zone increase of 30 level most in Kalimantan Island. So Kalimantan Timur. Next, so now let's move on the variation of stunting determinant in children under 5 in 6 provinces in Indonesia. In 2000, 2013, and 2018, based on data mining analysis. The criteria for the province that were selected to be included in the random forest analysis were the first, the province that had the lowest, moderate, and highest prevalence of stunting in children under 5 during the 3 data collection periods. The second, the province represents the western, central, and eastern region of Indonesia. The 6 provinces chosen were Kepulauan Riau, DKI Jakarta, Kalimantan Timur, Sulawesi Selatan, Maluku, and Nusa Tenggara Timur. Variation of determinant of stunting in children under 5 in the province with lowest prevalence of stunting 28 Kepulauan Riau. You see this most important: mother height, father height, father abdominal circumference, mother abdominal circumference, and mother upper arm circumference. And this map shows area, province area DKI Jakarta, so green zone or prevalence decrease, yeah, from 2013 13 and 2008. So let's see variance of determinant of stunting in children under 5 in the province with the moderate prevalence of stunting. Kalimantan Timur, most important determinant, the same with the Kepulauan Riau and DKI Jakarta. However, this map no zone, red zone. And Sulawesi Selatan, as the province with moderate prevalence of stunting from central region of Indonesia, most important determinant the same with 3 province others. So next, variance determinant of stunting in children under 5 in the province with the highest prevalence of stunting is Maluku and Nusa Tenggara Barat. Maluku and Nusa Tenggara Barat from East region Indonesia. Difference, most important determinant from Western and Central region, this travel time to the facility. So the next, Nusa Tenggara Timur. The figure, the map, this most area district from Nusa Tenggara Timur province is red zone. By the way, the most important determinant, the same determinant with Kepulauan Riau, DKI Jakarta, and Kalimantan Timur, Sulawesi Selatan. Next, I will show as my projection map of distribution and degrees of stunting problem in Indonesia in 2023 and 2026. The map is figure so that from spatial analysis, most district city in Indonesia have stunts prevalence rate in children under 5, which tend to be in the yellow to green zone. Only a small part of the area is included in the red zone, namely on the Sumatra Island, only 12 of the total 254 district or city, or 7.7%. And on the Java Island, 118 district and city, or 0.8%. Namely, the East Java region. On the island of Kalimantan, one of 56 district city, or 1.7%. Namely is West Kalimantan, Kalimantan Barat. And Bali and Nusa Tenggara Island, 9 out of a total of 41 district city, or 21.9%. And all the them are in Nusa Tenggara Timur. While in Sulawesi, 5 out of 81 district city, or 66.1%. And Maluku and Papua Island, 7 of the total 30 district or city, or 11%. Thus, 33 district city are still in the red zone, or have a stunting prevalence in under 5 more than 14%. Next, projection map or the distribution and degree of stunting problem in Indonesia for 2026. The projection map of stunting prevalence among children under 5 in Indonesia in 2026, which is shown in figure, so that the WHO the target 20% nationally will be achieved in 2026. Most of the district and city in Indonesia have entered the yellow and even green zone. However, there are still district and city that are included in the red zone, which is 4.3%. There are 16 district city in Indonesia that are still red zone in 2026. In conclusion, let me sum up the main point, starting with 27 to 28. There are 229 district in Indonesia that include in the red zone, and there are 219 district and city in Indonesia that include red zone. And to 2018, there are 100 or 21% district or city in Indonesia that are include the red zone. The prevalence stunting children from lowest prevalence area is Kepulauan Riau and DKI Jakarta from 2007 and 2013 and 2018 has decreased. And Kalimantan Timur, Sulawesi Selatan is province the prevalence stunting from 2000 and to 2018 has fluctuated, and the Maluku and Nusa Tenggara Timur has decreased too. However, the stunting prevalence rate still the highest compared on other provinces in Indonesia. Conclusion main two. The most important determinant of stunting in children under 5 in Indonesia, representative from Western region, Central region, and Eastern region, and lowest prevalence, moderate, and highest prevalence. Six provinces have determinant is same. Mother height, father height, mother education, mother abdominal circumference, and mother upper arm circumference. So, conclusion 3, the use of the predictive model for the result of the multi-level logistic regression analysis above is the basis of the finding. The prevalence of stunting in children under 5 in Indonesia in 2023 is 23.53%. And WHO target of 20% of the prevalence of stunting for each country can be achieved in Indonesia in 2026. The projected map of stunting in children under 5 in Indonesia in 2023 and 2026 show that the stunting red zone still exists in the territory of Indonesia in 2023. As many as 33 Regency City and Nusa Tenggara Timur province has the highest number of Regency City with red zone, namely 9 district city. In 2026, it is predictive that there will be 16 district city that are still in the stunting red zone, namely Nangro Aceh Darussalam, Islahat, and Aceh Tengah District, Sumatera Utara, Kepulauan Nias District, Kalimantan Barat, Melawi District, Sulawesi Selatan, Pangkajene Kepulauan, Toraja Utara District, Sulawesi Barat, Majene District, and Nusa Tenggara Timur is Flores Timur, Alor, Belu, Manggarai Timur, Timur Tengah Selatan, Timur Tengah Utara District, and finally Papua, Tolikara, Intan Jaya, Lani Jaya District. So in recommendation, let me sum up the main recommendation. The appropriate intervention are needed according to the determinant of stunting in children under 5, especially in districts that are still included in the red zone, so that areas that are predicted to experience red zone in 2026 know that occur. 1. Priority of nutrition and health intervention in the preconception stage in couples who have short stature. Improvement of children's nutritional status require multi-factor interventions such as improving child nutrition and personal hygiene as the child's age increases. Reduction poverty and ensuring household food security, especially in areas where the percent of the poor is higher. increase health effort from government from program in area that have a low public health development index score. Thank you for attention, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Suara.
No hear your sound, moderator.
Yes. Okay. Because
Okay.
stunting is the main agenda of our government, therefore the involvement of all parties in accelerating the decline of in the prevalence rate is become a must. All right, thank you again, Dr. Min Sanawati. We will move on to the second speakers. Dr. Eni Nuraini Agustini, Master of Science, PhD. I will read your profile first. Hello, Dr. Eni Nuraini.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, I will read your profile first. She is a lecturer and researcher in Mental Health Nursing Department, Faculty of Health Science, Syarif Hidayatullah, Islamic State, Jakarta. She got Bachelor in University of Indonesia, Master of Science in the Kobe University, and Doctoral in Hyogo University. Her specialized in mental health nursing. Most of her publication is about mental health in disaster. Now, she will share her research about integrated community-based psychological first aid, CBPFA, to improve community resilience for community volunteer member or cadres at disaster-prone area. Dr. Eni, you have 30 minutes, and now time is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for this valuable opportunity for me to share one of my study. It's about integrated community-based psychological first aid, or CBPFA, to improve community resilience for community volunteer member or cadres at disaster-prone area. This is the part of my project. So it's kind of the preliminary study before I implemented the CBPFA program for the cadres at the disaster-prone area. So these are the research teams, me, myself, and then Mrs. Laila Tofadia. She's a mental health nurse specialist. Mr. Waras Budi Utomo, my co-worker, and there's my main supervisor at University of Hyogo, Professor Sono Mashino. So before I start my presentation, so these presentations will be discuss several contents, such as the first about the backgrounds, and then the significance of the study, and then the research proposal itself, the hypothesis that I formulated or we formulated, and then the research design, the data analysis, the result, discussion part, limitation, and will be closed by the implications for a practice and the conclusions. Yes, first of all, I would like to explain the reason why I conduct this study. So, since I would like to create some community-based psychological first aid, so first of all, I have to make preliminary study whether this program is suitable or not for Indonesia community. As we already knew, disaster impacted the affected population in Indonesia, such as loss of life, serious injuries, destructions of the life ones and property, and then it's created serious disruptions in people's lives. And sometimes the disaster also affect their mental health and social well-being. Okay. So in this part, people may develop mental disorder after disaster, while others appear to have a very minor psychological impact. So it means that not every survivor after disaster will have mental disorders. We already have our own psychological resilience to make us stronger after one catastrophic event. However, for those people with psychological distress, they will recover naturally with little or no interventions. And those people who can recover naturally will rely on their personal resilience by the family community support and the local assistance program that will help individual and community resilience. So what is the local assistance program? The local assistance program, especially the local assistance that need community involvement to create community resilience. So at this moment, the trend of building community resilience is seen as a strategy to foster disaster preparedness and community. Because if we want to create greater community resilience, we must include the people within the community to build up their resilience. So, several community disaster mental healthcare models have been introduced, which actively include community member participations and aim to build community resilience. For example, the community-based psychological first aid, or CBPFA, and the other psychosocial interventions and the community support training program. However, only the CBPFA model is well recommended by the WHO. As we already knew that Indonesia is a disaster-prone country, the Indonesian government, honestly, has only started to develop the community mental health system in 2005 by upscaling the community mental health nurse or public health nurse with mental health training and psychosocial program that we called the Community Mental Health Nursing Program. These programs was developed in Aceh only, and also later on spread into other provinces such as Jakarta and then Jakarta. But actually, this program is not intended to build community resilience. Actually, the program itself is to respond to the severe shortage in the mental health systems in the aftermath of the 2004 tsunami. So there such a big issue in Indonesia. We lack of community mental health professional, and then at that time until now we still develop the community mental health nursing program, but it was not intended as the disaster preparedness until later on we realized that Indonesia is required to have the strong disaster preparedness. One of the disaster preparedness is by upscaling the public health nurse and involvement of the community members to create into prepare the disaster. So, as we already knew in healthcare professional, there are cadre programs that already established in 1970s. So this cadre program is part of community involvement. So it had better to involve the cadres in our disaster mental health preparedness instead of rely on the public health nurse or the public health professionals itself. Based on those considerations, so I want to propose the significance of the study. The first reason of why the study is so important, because basically the CBPFA, it will be suitable for the community base due to the characteristics of this program. This program should incorporating effective local traditions and value. And we knew that Indonesia has a strong tradition value in their daily life. And then what is the strong traditional values in their daily life? That is the religious value. And then the number two, the need to develop a community-based disaster mental health is getting stronger at this moment. And it requires the involvement of the community who is in this study that can be represented or can be delivered by the cadres. And then to the note that there is no prior training or practice which integrated the spiritual and religious value into the community-based psychological first aid in Indonesia. And those the reason that make up this study is important. So the research purpose, so I developed the research purpose. The first is to develop integrated CBPFA. I call the name is integrated CBPFA since I integrated the religious value into the CBPFA program for community members or cadres that improve the community resilience. And the second purpose was to evaluate the effectiveness of the training program on cadres' knowledge, their confidence, and their resilience. So we formulated a hypothesis. The first hypothesis is the CBPFA training will increase cadres' knowledge and skill of early psychosocial support. And the second, the integrated CBPFA group will show higher score on the post-training test performance, including their perceived self-efficacy, self-perceived resilience, and then community resilience. So now I'm going to introduce you by step how I developed this program or the training program. First of all, I made up the CBPFA content based on the original CBPFA training program based on Jacobs and Mayer's CBPFA program that was developed in 2006. And then I was trying to aid religious and spiritual relaxation technique as a part of traditional value. And then next step, I did consultations with the, of course, the academic supervisors, the expert in CBPFA and Islamic psychologists, because it's necessary before we develop the training program. So feedback from those experts was broad benefit for the training program as a relevant model to be introduced in Indonesia. And then uh, this part that I have to train the team. Of course, when we want to deploy, we want to develop a training program, we need a team. So there were two trainers in this program, including the main researcher itself. We were mental health nurses who had expertise in community mental health and disaster care. So prior to the training, the handbook and manual were distributed to the trainers. So in order to have the same competencies and also perspective related to the process of the training and lesson. And, eventually, we start to implement the integrated CBPFA to our small preliminary study. So everyone actually keep wondering, what is the integrated CBPFA? So the integrated CBPFA is community-based psychosocial training, which integrates the Islamic values throughout the program. So the sentence or the topic that I put and highlight in red highlight is the modification ones. So originally, there only led by Jason. But then we added the religious relaxation techniques. And after we received some suggestion from the Islamic psychologists and then also the expert in PFA, it would be better if you want to integrate the Islamic value, it should be integrated in all the lessons or all the topics. For example, being a helper in Jason's and in Jacob's original versions, it's only talking about the importance of being a helper in general perspective. But in integrated CBPF, we add being a helper in Islamic perspective. And so on, same as like traumatic stress, not only talking traumatic stress in general perspective, but also in Islamic perspective as well. So there are 8 lessons or 8 topics that we have to train to the cadres. So as I already told that in the previous slide that I added the spiritual relaxation technique. Why do I put the spiritual relaxation technique? Because the original CBPFA by Jason doesn't teach the relaxations or some specific skill to overcome the anxiety or the distress that can be resulted from the daily stressor or disaster. So we thought that it's important to provide some specific skill to the cadres related to overcome the anxiety. So we start to add the spiritual relaxation technique. This is the combinations of relaxation therapy and Islamic medication by incorporating remembrance of Allah. So we taught the others that they should deep breathings. We train them by put the deep breathing technique of inhale and exhale for 3 times. And the end of the exhales, we should whispering the God forgiveness word in Islamic tenets such as astaghfirullah. So it's what's the simple one of relaxation technique that can be acquired by the general population. So this is the handbook that I already told about the integrated CBPFA that consists of 8 religious relaxation techniques. So since this is the preliminary study before we implement the real CBPFA training program, so the research method is of the quasi experiment research by pre and post test. So the pre test, we deploy 4 kind of questionnaires. First, we were asking the knowledge and usefulness of CBPFA, and then the second, we examine the self-efficacy, and then for the psychological or individual resilience, we using the Kanner Davidson resilience scales. And then to examine the community's resilience, we use communities advancing resilience toolkit or card. And then within 2 days, all the cadres will join the integrated CBPFA training. And in the last day, the end of the sessions, all the cadres or participants should took the post test. So what are the subject? The subject are the cadres at Sumur District in Public Health Center, Banten Province. We are using systematic random sampling with the inclusion criteria. So we had at least 2 years experience as cadre with range of age 25 up to 55 years old. And then the exclusion criteria that are the passive participant cadre, which it means that who not longer engage in cadre activity for more than 6 months. So in the end, we had a 54 participants, but unfortunately, 2 participants uncompleted training. So we only analyzed 52 participants in the end. So for some people maybe already know where the Sumur district, but let me introduce. This is Indonesia map, and this is the Pandeglang city. Why I choose Sumur district? Because it's in 2018 there was a tsunami disaster due to Sunda Strait volcanoes in that kind of area, and then Sumur district was the most affected area. Therefore, I choose this place. And it's quite far from Jakarta. At that time, 6 hours by car to reach the research area. So regarding the ethical considerations, so we gained approval from University of Hyogo and Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University by in 2020. So this is the data analysis. We conduct the tests of normality tests and then univariate analysis and the variate analysis itself. So this is the univariate data. So such as the age, the mean age is 32 years old, and then years in cadre service, average 6 years, and then there are 10. Surprisingly, I just knew it. There's some cadres in Sumur district are male, so but only 10 participants are male, while 42 are females, and then 45 are married women or male, and then the level education, most of them is senior high school graduated. So what I try to compare the training's outcome of participants. So knowledge, the pre-training shows increased score after post-training, and then also the the psychological resilience itself, the self-efficacy, and then the community, the perceived of community resilience. So it means that the CBPFA training had increased the knowledge skill of early, and then the integrated CBPFA groups itself show higher score on the post-training test. Then asking about the usefulness of the CBPFA training. So most of the participants express their strongly agree regarding this training program. So in discussion part, I'm going to divide into 2 topics. The first, I'm going to talk about the CBPFA and the cultures. So actually, I just want to emphasize in this study that religion maybe is not merely a set of private belief, yes, in our mind, but religion can help us to shape the behavior of community on disaster strategy, such as religion teach us how to be patient during the hardship moments, and it has a strong benefit in time of disaster. And then especially for the integrated CBBFA training that offer the psychoeducation in the Islamic perspective show that the efficacy of CBBFA in the study is partly attributed to the strong commitment to the religions of other. And then talking about the culture again, that we knew that Indonesia, well known about is strongly famous at the collectivist culture. What is collectivist culture? Is people view themselves as part of community and show a strong preference for adhering to group to which they belong. So the gotong royong is one part of the collectivist culture. So by the benefit of gotong royong, it's emphasized that there is a positive notion of mutual family and community support, especially in time of disaster. So it means that the spirit of gotong royong is congruent with the aim, with the principle of CBBFA. And then in CBBFA and resilience actually can be learned, can be developed and enhanced through cognitive transformational practice education and environment support. Therefore, Kader learned how to be an effective helper, to understand about traumatic stress concept, to conduct active listening, and to manage their own stress by incorporating their religious value. And then the integrative CBPFA can help to reduce community reliance. So community not only longer rely on the government support, they can help themselves by using the community resilience. However, I put some limitation this study since this study is a preliminary study, so the current study was limited to the general symbol ethnicity and religions. So I mean, it needs more populations to make this training program as a general trainings. And then there's no control study and follow up, of course, because this is just a preliminary study, but it's quite important to evaluate the knowledge retention in long-term period. I mean, testing pre and post-test, of course, there's some increase point. However, if we want to look up the retentions of the knowledge, it is important to conduct follow-up study. And then this study did not assess the religiosity value of the participant. So the effect of incorporating religious cultural terms into CBPFA was quite vague. And then the implication for practice, incorporating religious value in CBPFA program is beneficial in Indonesia. And then the development of CBPFA seems more visible to be applied in the cadre. And for the future research, contributing the research in the field of CBPFA, and then because this study conducted was an experiment by comparing pre and post-test result only among the integrated CBPFA group. So it's there's a urge needs to have case and control group. So that's the implication of my study. The conclusion that the integrated CBPFA can be regarded as the first CBPFA training which combined the psychoeducation with Islamic approach, and the studies showed demonstrated the participants were likely to show the integrated CBPFA training more useful for them. So because we had 72% who strongly agree with this training. And then for the recommendation that using control group and a comprehensive participatory training accompanied with regular supervisions should be considered for future study. That's all my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Annie. Would you give an applause for Dr. Annie? And the participant in Zoom room, you can choose the icon applause, maybe. Okay, it's very interesting presentations as we live in Indonesia, as many disasters have happened nowadays, but mental health impact sometimes or oftenly maybe we deny it. I'm sure this invites a lot of questions from all participants. Yeah, it's a long way study, yeah, Dr. Annie, because I see in your conclusion you have so many projects afterwards. Okay, participant, I will remind all participants, if you have question, please type in the chat box in the room Zoom. Okay, the next speaker is Putri Amelia, Magister of Pharmacies, PhD, or maybe I will make it short, Dr. Putri. She is a lecturer from Department of Pharmacies, Faculty of Health Science, Syarif Hidayatullah, Islamic State, Jakarta. She worked in UIN since 2011, if I don't mistake. She graduated doctoral degree in pharmaceutical science in Hoshi University, Japan. Several research have been experienced and published, and her specialized and expertise in endophyte and natural chemistry. She's become a member of Japanese Society of Pharmacognosy, Indonesian Pharmacists Association, and Indonesian Chemical Association. And today, she will present her research about indole alkaloids from Tabernamontana Marcocarpa and their anti-malarial activities. Okay, please, participants, hear today's presentation from Dr. Putri Amelia. Dr. Putri, you have 30 minutes to present your presentation, so please.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Dewi, for the kind introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's a pleasure and an honor for me to join this event and share one of my works entitled Alkaloid from Tabernamontana Marcocarpa and their antimalarial activity. So please let me share my presentation. Okay, so this work actually was part of my doctoral research in Hoshi University with valuable help from Dr. Alvarius Eko Nugroho, Dr. Yusuke Hirasawa, Dr. Toshio Kaneda from Hoshi University, and from Takahiro Taugan and Professor Toshihiro Horii and Professor Hiroshi Morita from Hoshi University. So in this presentation, we will discuss about antimalarial activity and the Plasmodium life cycle and antimalarial agents from natural product. We will also discuss about the sample of this research, which is Tabernamontana Marcocarpa. We will discuss about the previous research from this plant and how to isolate the pure compound from this plant. And we also discuss about the indole alkaloids that will be isolated from this plant and how to elucidate the structure from this plant and how about the bioactivity from the indole alkaloids that we isolated. So as the introduction, we know that malaria is life-threatening disease caused by a Plasmodium parasite and transmitted by the bite of a female Anopheles mosquito. According to WHO in 2020, there were estimated 229 million malaria infection cases in 87 countries, with the death infection cases were about 0.49 million. This parasitic disease is widespread in all tropical and subtropical area, including Indonesia. There are 5 Plasmodium species have known causing human malaria, including Plasmodium falciparum, Vivax, malaria, ovale, and knowlesi. Plasmodium has a complex life cycle in human as a host and also in the mosquito as an vector. Generally, there are 5 key stages to the Plasmodium life cycles, including stage 1 is transmission to the human, stage 2 is in the liver stage, stage 3 is in the red blood cell stage, stage 4 is transmission to the mosquito, and stage 5 is in the mosquito itself. Most of the antimalarial agents like quinine, primaquine, artemisinin, and chloroquine works in the stage 3 red blood cell stage. Based on the structure, there are several factors that can affect the effectiveness of the antimalarial agents, including the scaffold or the skeleton of the compounds, the substituents or the functional groups, the linkage positions from the 2 monomer units, and the stereochemistry of the compounds. There will be present the difference activity. Although the effective compounds such as quinine, chloroquine, and artemisinin have been known as important antimalarial drugs, but the potential emergence of each resistance makes the finding of the new and more effective parent compounds need to be isolated more. And alkaloids, specifically indole alkaloids with the skeleton, the red one, is one of the major classes of nature that derived compound and exhibit the antimalarial activity such as longicaudatin, longicaudatin F, and sipargamin. And indole alkaloid can be found in Apocynaceae, Rubiaceae, and Loganiaceae family of this plant. So in this work, we use Tabernae montana macrocarpa Jack as the sample. This plant is belong to Apocynaceae family and is distributed in Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. And as we can see in the screen, these are the part of the plant, the trees, the leaves, and the flowers, and also the fruit. And the preliminary study of this plant showed that the N-hexane, ethyl acetate, ethanol, and the water extract from this plant were reported to have antioxidant and anti-cancer activities. Some non-alkaloids have been isolated from this plant, including coronaridin as anti-cancer, foacangin anti-oncokertal, and heneanin anti-tumor, and foacangin hydroxyindolenin, and foafilin. So the objective of this research is to isolate and elucidate or determine the structure of the bioactive indole alkaloid, which have antimalarial activity from Tabernae montana macrocarpa Jack. And the method was conducted by the isolation and bioassay guided fractionation based on the antimalarial activity to have indole alkaloids and specifically the new dimeric indole alkaloids as a target. So this is the isolation scheme. The separation of this plant was done by the partition with acid-base extraction method, and it gave 3 fraction ethyl acetate, chloroform, and the butanol fraction. Each fraction then will check the antimalarial activity, and then chloroform and butanol fraction then which shows the good growth inhibition value were separated further with the column chromatography and the HPLC, and it yields 4 new compound 1, compound 2, compound 9, and compound 10, together with 6 known compound. So as we got 6 non-compound alkaloids and 4 new alkaloids compound, then the task is to elucidate the structure, how to know the structure of these compounds. We use some instruments for the structure elucidation. We use polarimeter, UV spectrophotometer to get the wavelength and the chromophore. We use the IR or infrared spectrometer to know the functional group. We use the mass spectrometry to know the molecular weight of the compound. And we also use the nuclear magnetic resonance or the NMR spectroscopy to elucidate the structure of the organic molecules, including one-dimension NMR with proton and carbon NMR, and two-dimension NMR, including COSY, HMBC, HSQZ, and Roissy spectra. So here are the physicochemical data of this nicarbamine A or compound 9. In this presentation, I will focus on the compound 9 and compound 10 because they have big molecular weight, about 700, which belong to the dimeric alkaloid. And compound 9 has absorption based on the around 3,395. It belongs to hydroxy group, and 1,726 which belong to carbonyl. And it's also shown the UV spectrum. From the UV spectrum, we also know the absorption of about 225 and 271, which shown the indole chromophore. So we can suggest it that this compound is content of the indole skeleton. And we use HRICMS mass spectroscopy. We know the molecular weight of this compound is about 733, which means that this compound have a dimeric structure. So this is the HNMR spectrum of compound 9. Usually the dimeric compound has a good activity rather than the monomeric compound. So in the NMR spectrum, we can see the indole skeleton in by check the aromatic check the proton chemical shift around 6.5 until 7.5. It belongs to aromatic proton, and we can also see the methyl functional group shown by the green. It's about 1.7 or 1.8 ppm belongs to the green one. And from the COSY spectra, we can see the correlation of the unit A that belongs to part of the, which have part of A, B, and C skeleton. And the unit B consists of the D, E, F, and G part of the skeleton. So if we compare this skeleton to the literature, we can see also the HMBC correlation of this unit A, shown by the red arrow here. And from the HMBC of the unit A, we can know that this monomer unit in unit A has a FoHS skeleton. And in the unit B, the HMBC correlation was shown with the red arrow. And if we compare to the literature, we can see that the unit B has a sarpagin skeleton. And then to know the stereochemistry, we also check the Roissy correlation for the unit A and the unit B. In the unit A, the RACI correlation suggested that the unit A has the ethylidene side chains with E configuration, and this is the ethylidene side change in the unit A. And from the unit B, the RACI correlation shown by the red arrow also suggested that the proton 6' A was have alpha oriented, and it was suggested that the unit B indeed has a Sarpagin skeleton. Now we have to make sure the connection of the unit A and the unit B by check the stereochemistry to know the linkage position of the unit A and the unit B. We check the HMDC of the here in the unit B at H10' to C3, and also by the RACI correlation in unit A and the unit B shown by the red arrows here. So by the this data, we can see that the linkage position of the unit A and the unit B is from the C9' to C3 here. So here is the relative structure of bisneicarpamine A, which have a unit A with phobacin skeleton and unit B with have a Sarpagin skeleton. So the next task is to determine the absolute configuration. We use the circular dichroism. The principal method is basically to compare the calculated and the experimental CD spectra. So if the two data is closely matched, the assignment of the high reliability is to be obtained. So we need to compare the experimental data that we got from the bisneicarpamine A and B, or compound 9 and 10, and then compare it with the calculated CD spectra. So generally there are 3 steps to check the CD calculation. First is to the conformational analysis by molecular mechanics and confirmed by NMR data. And the second step is to check the molecular orbital calculation. And the third step is the processing the calculated UV and the CD spectra result. So from the first step, we use the relative structure that we got, and then we compare it with the molecular mechanic software, and then we confirm it the data by the NMR. And if the data was matched, then we can continue to the second step. In this case, we got the similar data from the NMR and also the molecular mechanic. So we can continue to the second step. The conformational analysis by molecular mechanic, or MMFF, was done by check the energy minimization from the H14, H3, H9', and H10', the linkage position of the 2 monomer units. And the results showed that the energy minimization was performed in this carbon 14, 3, 9', and 10' is about 120 degrees, and it consistent with the RACI correlation data. From this structure, we know that compound 9 has a twist or conformation. And we continue with the second step with the molecular orbital calculation. In this task, we use TurboMol software, and we have to compare the CD and the UV calculation of each conformer by TDDFT. The third one is to compare the spectra that we got from the CD spectra calculated and the CD spectra that we use from the sample. So the result is usually they don't show the good result. I mean, as we can see here, the wavelength of the two CD or the UV calculated spectra or experiment spectra will be different. So we need to make a correction of the wavelength. In this research, I use 10 nanometers correction. So we can get the good result to know whether the CD spectra or the UV spectra is similar or not. In this task, I use the SpecDis software. And as the result, as we can see here, now we have the good spectra from the UV or the CD. And this method was also applied to the bisneicarpamine A and bisneicarpamine B. As we can see here, this is the isomer of bisneicarpamine A. The spectra is not good. I mean, they are not in the right position, so we make a correction about 10 nanometers, and now we can the good result from the experimental or the CD spectra. And we also use the SpecDis software for this task. And as a result, as we can see here, from compound 9, the CD and the UV calculation has and get the conclusion from the compound 9. The conformation of bisneicarpamine A or compound 9 has twist conformation. As we know that, like I said in the previous slide, the conformation will affect the biological activity of the compound. So this is the absolute structure of bisneicarpamine A. And now we talk about the bisneicarpamine B. We also use the same instrument to elucidate or to get the structure. This is the new compound, bisneicarpamine A and bisneicarpamine B, new compound that never been published before in the journal. So from the IR spectrum, we got the absorption around 3,386 and 1,725. It's belong to hydroxy and carbonyl. Like we can see here in the structure, we got the hydroxy here and the carbonyl here. So from the UV spectra, we also got the absorption around 225 and 287, which shows that this compound has indole chromophore here. And the HRICMS also showed that this compound has a dimeric structure. As we can see, the molecular weight is about 790. From the HNMR spectra of compound 9, if we compare it to compound 10, there are some differences from the compound 9 and compound 10, I mean from the NMR spectra. Here we can see the difference of the linkage position. In compound 10, the linkage position is from C3 to C11 prime, while in the compound 9, the linkage position is from C3 to C9 prime. And from the HNMR spectra, we also know that there are different functional group in C12 prime. In bisneicarpamine B or compound 10, functional group at C12 prime is hydroxy, whereas the functional group at bisneicarpamine A or compound 9 at C12 prime is methoxy. So we continue the elucidation structure by check the 2D NMR correlation of the compound 10 using the HMBC, and as a result, we know that the compound 10 also have a phobosine and sarpagen skeleton in unit A and unit B respectively. The both line is showed the cozy correlation, and the red arrows showed the HMBC correlation. And the Roissy correlation of compound 10 also investigated, and for each monomer unit, unit A and the unit B, shown the similar pattern or similar correlation as compound 9 or bisneicarpamine A. So now the next task is to check the connection or the linkage of the unit A and the unit B of the two monomer unit. In this case, we use chemical shift. We compare the chemical shift of this monomer unit, and also by checking the Roissy correlation. So the result, we can see that the linkage position of the unit A and the unit B is from C3 to C11 prime. So here is the relative structure of bisneicarpamine B. Consists of unit A and unit B with phobosine and sarpagen skeleton. The next task for compound B is to check the conformational analysis by molecular mechanics, and conformational analysis of compound 10 was done around C14, C3, C11 prime, and C10 prime. And the dihedral angle of this compound showed that it's about 110 degree, the dihedral angle of this compound. And it means that this compound has different conformation with compound 9. If we remember that compound 9 has a twist conformation, then that and compound 10 has a planar conformation. So this is the comparison of stable conformation by the or molecular mechanics of compound 10, and we compare it with the Roissy correlation of compound 10, and it's have a similar data or consistent result. So we also compared the CD and the UV calculation of compound 10 to know the stereochemistry of the compound 10. It's also performed by the turbomole and using SpecDis as well as compound 9. And as a result, we got the absolute structure from the CD of the compound 9 and compound 10. This is the absolute structure of compound 9 or bisneicarpamine A, which has a twist conformation. And this is the absolute configuration of compound 10, which has an extended conformation. Then we also check the antimalarial assay. The antimalarial assay was performed against Plasmodium falciparum strain 3D7 using the automatic hematology analyzer XN30, and we use chloroquine as a positive control. And as a result, among 10 compounds that we've been isolated, consists of 2 new monomer alkaloid, indole alkaloid, and 2 new dimeric indole alkaloid, compound 9 and compound 10, and together with 6 non-alkaloid. Only, as we can see in the table, only 60-dimetoxycarbonylfluorocarbamine and compound 9, bisnecarbamine A, which shows the good antimalarial activity with IC50 28.8 and 4.60 respectively. And as the conclusion, in this work, we isolated 2 monomeric compounds, indole alkaloid, compound 1, compound 2, and 2 dimeric indole alkaloid, compound 9, compound 10, or bisnecarbamine A and bisnecarbamine B, which consists of phobacin and sarpagin skeleton. And the antimalarial activity of this new compound 1 has IC50 more than 50 micromolar, as well as compound 2, and bisnecarbamine A have IC50 4.60 micromolar, while bisnecarbamine B is IC50 more than 50 micromolar. As we can see here, even the compound 9 and compound 10 has similar structure, but they possess different activity. That's why it's very important to check the stereochemistry of the compound so we can make sure the activity of the compounds itself. That's all my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Putri, that give us information about alternative of drug malaria. It's quite innovative. Ladies and gentlemen, if you see connection between the invited speakers today, all about health, Dr. Minsanarati have found predictive data about stunting, identification of a health problem, and Dr. Arni talked about treatment of mental health, and also Dr. Putri talked about her innovation of finding alternative malaria drugs from natural chemistry. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to question and answer session. I'd like to have a question already note here in the chat box. For Mrs. Minsarnawati, there are 3 questions. And then to Mrs. Annie, Dr. Annie, there are also 3 questions. Participant, if you have if you have a question, please type in the chat box. Okay, first of all, I would like to read the question from Mrs. Febrianti to Mrs. Minsarnawati. Can you explain more about what were the variables that you used to predict stunting prevalence in 2030? And based on your data analysis experience, how were the data quality from Riskesdas 2007, 2010, and 2018? Dr. Minsarnawati, you can answer directly. Hello,
Okay.
Dr. Minsarnawati?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you grab the questions, or I will read it
Yes.
again? From Mrs. Febrianti. Okay, I will read it
Yeah.
again. Can you explain about what were the variables that you used to predict stunting prevalence in 2030? And based on your data analysis experience, how were the data quality from ICHS 2007, 2010, and 2018? So please.
Okay, thank you for your question, Ibu Febri. There are variables, 21 variables is the children under 5 living in the district countryside, district life. Excuse me. Moderator.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, there are 21 variables for development model predictive. For example, children under 5 years living in the countryside, living in a district city with a low life expense, living in short average life schooling, BMI mothers, BMI, of garbage collection, mother occupation, was water disposal, number of house members, ownership index, father education, travel time to the facility, health facility, father's age, mother age, father of occupation, father abdominal circumference, mother upper arm circumference, mother abdominal circumference, mother education, father height, and mother height.
Okay.
So, quality data is good, yes. Before I use the predictive model, develop predictive model formula for project projection in 2023 and 2026, I first tested the accuracy of the predictive models and obtained a value 0.7771. So this model can guess correctly 71.02%, and the determinant coefficient value 76.86%, meaning that the variables contained in this model can contribute 76.86%. Yes. So my conclusion, data from Indonesian health survey is good. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Min Sarnawati. And the second question from Mr. Adi. As
Yes.
you said that mother or father's height was one of the most determinant, does it mean that these parents also experience stunting in their early life?
Okay. All right. All right. My variable is father's height and mother's age, most important determinant. For my analysis random forest for all 34 province, two variables meant is father and mother's health. Actually, yeah, population of Indonesia is most population is high and yes. Moderator, I can speak bahasa for answer my question, Mr. Adi. Saya setuju ya bahwa temuan saya bahwa hampir sebagian besar, bahkan ya 34 provinsi yang menggunakan data 2018 itu tinggi ibu dan ayah itu adalah determinan utama untuk lima determinan utama. Nah, jadi ini saya setuju dengan pendapatnya bahwa apakah tadi apa ya pertanyaannya?
Ibu dan ayah adalah ibu dan ayah adalah faktor yang paling dominan. Apakah itu artinya mereka pada early life-nya mengalami stunting?
Ya. Jadi karena kita memang kita dari awal dari awal Indonesia merdeka lah ya, kita hitung itu memang selalu kita bermasalah dengan stunting ini. Jadi kalau kita lihat riwayat ke belakang, orang tua yang melahirkan anak stunting itu memang ditemukan ya, terbukti bahwa ternyata yang berkontribusi besar anak-anak yang stunting ini adalah berasal dari orang tua yang memang ayah dan ibunya sudah pendek ya. Atau
the answer
tingginya di bawah normal.
The answer is probably they also stunting in their early life. Ya, Dr. Min Sarnawati. Because we didn't you didn't conduct the research of their parents in the early life, so we didn't know whether they are stunting or not, but probably maybe like that. Dr. Min Sarnawati, you have a question from Mrs. Mardianti.
Yes.
In the third question, it is so sad to know that the prevalence of stunting in 2023 will still higher than WHO recommendation. In terms of global health partnership, what should we do to combat stunting?
Thank you for question, Ms. Mardianti. Indonesia, Indonesia needs a partnership with country for intervention to stunting problem. There are programs sensitive and specific, yes. Needs collaboration with funding for big program to special sensitive program.
So we have the program for intervention stunting in specific and sensitive program. And also we have to collaborate with the other parties, right, Dr. Min Sarnawati?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the answers. I hope
Thank you.
Mrs. Febrianti and Mr. Adi and also Mrs. Mardianti, you have the answer. And then the next for Dr. Annie. Hello, Dr. Annie. You have 3 questions.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, thank you. Still here. You have 3 questions from Mrs. Febrianti, Mr. Adi, and also from Mrs. Mardianti. The first question from Mrs. Febrianti is, will the model that you have developed be beneficial to non-Muslim too? You can directly answer the question.
Okay, thank you very much for good questions, Mrs. Febrianti. Yes, correct. That's why I revealed in my study that the studies cannot be drawn as a general population, since this is limited to the specific religions and ethics. But maybe for the next or for the future projects, it can be beneficial if we can accommodate not only Islamic religion but also others officially religion in Indonesia. But it's gonna take a very long way, because when I was developing this training program, especially how to integrate Islamic value into the training program, it's quite difficult. It took around almost a year for me to consult, to formulate what kind of Islamic value that can be suitable and appropriate in CBPFA trainings. I think that's all my answer. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I cannot give further promise that this program can be implemented in other religions, since it's very sensitive issue.
Okay. Maybe you have to collaborate with other with non-Muslims communities, because they have different
approach.
Religious, yes. Okay, the second question is from Mr. Adi. Thank you for your presentation. Can you explain in a brief about Islamic content that integrate in the program? And I think it's quite similar with Mrs. Mardianti questions, because Mrs. Mardianti asked about explain more about 8 integrated religious techniques and what the difficulties in conducting these techniques. So you can answer both of questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for the great questions from the 2 participants. So let me share. I will show in very short how contents of my handbooks about the CBPFA training program that I distributed to the participants. So this is the books in Indonesian language at first, and then when I developed this training program, I consulted with the Islamic psychologists as well as one of the important person in Muhammadiyah Disaster Management Center, because Muhammadiyah Disaster Management Centers already published some fikih kebencanaan book. So I consulted with them in terms of what kind of Islamic value that can be suitable when I put into the book in the trainings. And then these are some of the sample of talking about. First, I have to explain about disaster according to our religions, and it's this kind of contents came from very long discussions and consultation with those of person. And then also when talking about how to be a helper, so first of all, I explain how to be a helper. What is a helper in psychological first aid or PFA? And then in the guidance book also, I explained in brief what is a helper in Islamic perspective, and then how our religion, Islamic tenets, already taught us the beneficial of being a helper. And also the other chapters also I put in some of Islamic perspective, how stress on the perspective of Islamic and so on. And then and then another question talked to me, how is the difficulties? Of course, very difficult. And as I told you, this almost a year to develop the training program, because which one is suitable, who is the professor in Islamic Islamic mental health can be consulted not only in with the Islamic psychologists, but also in Islamic mental health nurses. So it's quite of difficult, but once I try to implement in my preliminary study and also in my study, this training program is quite relieved. The result is significant correlations, and there's a significant improvement among the cadres. And then, as I already told you, that the quasi-experiment pre-post test with control group also already conducted in my study. But this one that I presented today, it's small part of my study about the implementations of CBPFA for the cadres in disaster protocol. I think that's all my answer.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Annie. It's very interesting. Maybe the next step you will get a hockey for this method, because you added the religious activities in these tools. I hope, inshallah.
Thank you. Inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much for the moderator for having me.
Thank you. And the next is for Dr. Putri. We have 3 questions also here from Mr. Adi. He asked about the compound that you found has been, it is been tested in the animal or human?
Okay, thank you for the question, Mr. Adi. Since I got a very limited amount of the compounds, I mean the isolate compounds, so we just check the antimalarial activity to investigate it more, I mean to the animals or to the humans. So we need to check the cytotoxic activity first, and then other activity. So if we want to continue, maybe we need to get the more isolate from this compound. So from now, we just check the antimalarial activity.
Okay, maybe it is for the next step. Yeah, Dr. Putri. Okay, there is a question also from Mrs. Yuni. Nice presentation and difficult research. How to interpret the antimalarial IC50 value, and what is the next plan of this research? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yuni. For the antimalarial assay, we use hematology analyzer, XN30, and we also use the software to calculate the data based on the growth inhibition. We use grep PET Prism software. And for the next step, maybe since it's not easy to use the instrument like I got in the my doctoral research, so maybe we can start with the docking task to modify the structure, and also we can modify the activity based on the modified the structure. We can also get the different activity, and we can check the other activity from this plan.
Okay. Dr. Putri, before the next question, I will ask, is it, the plantation, is it in Indonesia, or because with the Latin names, we don't know the names, yeah?
Sorry, I forgot to put the Indonesian name of this plant. So the synonym of this plant in Indonesia, actually we got some difference in different area. This plant also known as lelutung tokak in some area, and lelutung tokak, and also cembirit. And actually we can eat the fruit, but the fruit is maybe I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's not annual or biennial plant, so it's not easy to get the fruit. But from the another researcher, I got the information that this plant, the fruit of this plant is edible.
Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting. Now it's the question is from Dr. Eka. Thank you very much for the very interesting presentations of new antimalarial indole alkaloids in this study. Nice to know. Maybe how is the ability of this compound compared to existing antimalarial drugs, compounds such as chloroquinone derivatives like hydroquinone?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Eka, for the questions. Actually, in this experiment, I use chloroquine as a positive control. So if we compare the result from the isolated compound, specifically bisnecapamine A and B, which have a dimer structure, compound 9 or bisnecapamine A has a moderate activity with IC50 about 4.60, while the chloroquine that used as a positive control has IC50 about 0.86, which showed strong activity. But even they have a different activity, I mean the potency is not similar, but we can get the positive result, how to modify the structure of the new compound that we got, bisnecapamine A and B, and then maybe we can also change the functional group to get the more active compound, and then we can also check again the antimalarial activity with different or the modified structure.
Okay, I think it's very interesting, and I pray for you. You get hockey also, because this is very innovative. Inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Putri. Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I have one question.
Okay.
Dr. Putri.
Yes.
You explained that in your study, in vitro study, you use 3D7 strain. 3D7 strain. That we know that strain is sensitive to chloroquine. But in Indonesia, majority Plasmodium falciparum already resistant to chloroquine. So, do you have another experience to use the Plasmodium falciparum resistant to chloroquine?
Thank you for the questions, Miss Rita, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, this experiment is, like I said before, is one part of my doctoral research. So I continue the research in my laboratory, which use the 3D7 as a Plasmodium strain. So in Indonesia, maybe it's not suitable to use this strain. So, but unfortunately, I haven't used another strain for the anti-malarial activity. Maybe it's interested to use another strain in Indonesia to compare the potency of the plant.
Okay, Mrs. Rita, do you have the answer?
Okay, thank you. I just want to a little bit information.
Yes.
As we have some strain of the Plasmodium falciparum, they are continue culture. They are continue culture in our lab. We have 3D7, the sensitive to chloroquine. Q1, there is they are resistant to chloroquine. Also strain from Papua. Papua is resistant to chloroquine. So if we have the what kind of fruit you use, we can to collaborate to to check effectiveness of that fruit to if we use the another strain Plasmodium falciparum actually in Indonesia, falciparum strain local in Indonesia. Thank you.
It will be my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rita. This is new opportunities, Dr. Putri, to collaborate with other researchers. If may I know, Mr. Rita, where you from? University? What university are you from?
BRIN, from BRIN.
Ah, from BRIN, I see. Wow, this is the big opportunities, Dr. Putri. Okay. Okay, now because run out of time, we'd like to thank to the invited speakers for interesting presentation, has given us insight about stunting, mental health in disaster area, and anti-malarial activities in plantation. As an appreciation, the conference committee will provide you certificate for your contribution as speaker in International Conference on Health Sciences 2022. Please, committee, show the certificate. Give an applause to our invited speakers. Please accept the certificate.
Thank you very much for the certificate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, for all participants, please remain in the Zoom room because we have another speaker still in the plenary session. We have Professor Dr. Omar Hassan Kasole. Are you with us, Dr. Hassan? Professor Kasole, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay,
Ready.
Thank you. Welcome to our international conference. Okay, allow me to read your profile first. Professor Dr. Omar Hassan Kasole is a medical professor of research method, biostatistics, epidemiology, study design, study analysis, as well as academic and general management in North America, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. He's Deputy Dean of Research and Chairman of Research Ethics Committee for more than 20 years. Now, he is a professor and consultant at the Faculty of Medicine and Hospital of King Fahd Medical City. And in 2005 until 2009, in Faculty of Health Science in the University of Brunei Darussalam, Professor in Deputy Dean in Malaysia from 1995 until 2005, Teaching Fellow at Harvard University from 1981 until 1995, and I've noticed there are 11 recent publications and so many attend symposium, conference, and workshop. Today, Professor will make a presentation about global health partnership on addressing Islamic religious determinant for sustainable and equitable health development. To all participants, if you have questions, please type it in the chat room. We will have Q&A session after Professor shares this presentation. Okay, Professor, you have 40 minutes to share. The time is yours.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. It's a pleasure being with you this morning to talk about the Islamic religious determinants of sustainable health. Everybody these days is concerned about sustainability of what we do. And we need to look for factors that can help this find the sustainability of health. Now, I want to start by defining two terms that are relevant from the Islamic perspective. The first one is sihha. This means health. Okay? And afia, it means being free from stresses. The two go together. Now, physical health, which is sihha, is one of the greatest ni'mah that Allah can give somebody. The other ni'mah is called faragh, stress-free time. When you are free of stress, that's also a great ni'mah. Many people don't get these two gifts because lack of stress is a sign of mental health and mental well-being. The Prophet ﷺ said in Bukhari, "Ni'matani maghbun fihima kathirun minan nas." Two bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are missed by many people: as-sihha wal-faragh. So these two are very important to understand as we start talking about sustainability of health. There is physical health, and then there is mental health, which includes having a stress-free living. Now, again, we need to remember that when we are healthy, we may become sick later on. So, while healthy, we need to do things to benefit from our health. And this is everything we're going to talk about sustainability has to do with that. While you are healthy, you do things that will help you if disease occurs to you. And that's preventive medicine. As the Prophet said, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس. Try to get 5 things before the other 5 hit you. I will mention all of them. شبابك قبل هرمك. While you are young, make use of your youth before you get old. وصحتك قبل سقمك. When you are healthy, make use of that before you fall sick. وغناك قبل فقرك. When you are rich, make use of that before you become poor. وفراغك قبل شغلك. Make use of your free time before you become busy. وحياتك قبل موتك. Make use of your life before you die. So, health, if we have got health, we need to think what to do to maintain the health, because one day we are going to fall sick. And afia, which as I said is being stress-free both physically and mentally, is so important that the Prophet ﷺ taught us to make dua to get afia. So the Prophet said, Ya Abbas, Ya Amr Rasulullah, the Prophet was talking to Abbas, his uncle. Salillahu al-afiyah. Ask Allah for afiyah fi dunya wal akhirah, on the dunya and the last day. So, also the Prophet taught us a specific dua for afiyah. When he said, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-afiyah fi dunya wal akhirah. Allah, I ask you for afiyah in dunya and in the hereafter. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-afwa wal-afiyah. Again, he asked for afiyah fi dini wa dunyaya, in my religion and my earthly life, wa ahli, my family, wa mali, and my wealth. Allahumma istur awrati. You know, the dua continues. So what we learn from this is that afiyah, living a stress-free life, is so important that we have to ask dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get this. Another dua reported by Abu Dawood from the Prophet, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-afwa wal-afiyah wal-mu'afat ad-da'ima fi ad-din wa ad-dunya wal-akhirah. It's another dua that we do. Now, I mentioned this dua to, as we talk about sustainability of our health, we need to remember that dua, prayer, is part of this. Because sometimes we are so busy talking about the programs that we forget that Allah's qadr intervenes. So when we ask Allah for help, inshallah, we can get the sustainability. So we should not forget dua and prayer. Now, again, as we talk about sustainability of health, we need to remember that disease can be disease of the heart and disease of the body. Now, there is no dichotomy between the two, because diseases of the heart become diseases of the body. The heart can become sick. For example, when the heart is ungrateful, when the heart is cruel, when the heart is miserly. These diseases manifest as bodily diseases. Either the person with the heart disease becomes sick, becomes worried, they stop eating, they stop sleeping, and become physically sick, or they cause harm to others. Issues like violence is because of a heart disease in one person who causes violence to others. So the two are closely related. One leads to the other. And the Quran focused a lot on disease of the heart. It did also mention disease of the body, but it focused on the disease of the heart because heart disease leads to physical disease. Quran talks about the heart disease when it says, في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا ولهم عذاب أليم بما كانوا يكذبون. Quran says that in their hearts there is disease, there is illness, and Allah will give them even more illness. Now we are talking about moral illnesses this time. We're not talking about coronary artery disease. But as I said, the moral diseases of the heart will lead to physical diseases, either in the same person or in others who interact with him. Now, the Quran also talked about physical conditions of causing illness, because as I said, there's a duality. And one of the prophets of Allah was tested, Ayub. Ayub had a serious skin disease, and وَأَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ إِنِّي مَسَّنِّيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Ayub asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help because of his disease and made dua. فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ فَكَشَفْنَا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered his dua and cured him of the disease. So both spiritual or heart and physical diseases were mentioned in the Quran, and I just want to emphasize that the two are closely interrelated. Physical disease also can lead to heart disease. When you are sick and suffering, your heart also spiritually may become sick. Now, Sustainable health can be achieved for the individual. The point I want to make is that from the Islamic point of view, we are not focused on the individual. We are focused on the community. When the whole community is healthy, then we can have sustainable health of the individuals. So what we want to do is to work on improving community health, and the individual health will follow that. And I think there is evidence for this. Developed countries in Europe and America, and also some developed countries now in Asia, like Japan and Korea, the experience was that global general social improvement became better health for individuals. So there was general economic development, general social development, general environmental improvement, and this resulted into the health of individuals. The only exception to this is vaccination. In vaccination, the approach was on the individual, especially against childhood diseases, and vaccination made a big difference in human immunity because of the immunization technology. But other aspects of health, really the evidence is they were not due to specific interventions in the individual, but due to general improvement in the whole community. So we need to focus on the word community. The Quran uses the word qarya or the word Medina to refer to the community. The word actually qarya is mentioned a lot in the Quran, 57 times. And the word Medina, city, is mentioned 17 times. So Quran is very concerned about the community. And my thesis is that we are going to achieve sustainable health by using community-based. Now, communities can be good or can be bad. And the Quran actually, as a guidance, has described to us good communities and bad communities. What we want to do is to avoid the bad communities, because they have got immorality, they have got transgressions. Immorality and transgressions are the commonest causes of ill health, but these are community-wide diseases. So Allah talked about communities that have got transgression. رَبَّنَا خْرِجْنَا مِنْ هَذِي الْقَرْيَةِ الظَّالِمِ أَهْلُهَا, to the extent that if the community is doing transgression, is zalim, people argue to go out of that village. Okay? And he talked about a transgressing village in Surah Al-Hajj. وَكَيِّن مِّن قَرَةٍ أَمْلَيْتُ لَهَا وَهِيَ ظَالِمَةٌ. This is a transgression, dhulm. And also he talked about punishment from heaven for bad community. إِنَّا مُنزِلُونَ أَهْلِ هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةَ الرِّجْزَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. Many communities, because of their immorality and transgression, were destroyed or punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also in Surah Al-A'raf, Allah talks, وَكَمْ مِنْ قَرْيَةٍ أَهْلَكْنَاهَا فَجَاءَهَا بَأْسُنَا بَيَاتًا أَوْ هُمْ قَائِلُونَ. Talks about many communities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed because they were bad. So the point is, if a community is bad and evil, it has got immorality, transgression, there is no kindness, there is no mutual self-help, evils appear, and some of the evils appear as bad health. Now, in a community, there are some evil people. Not everybody is bad in the community. Some bad people are in the community. وَكَانَ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ تِسْعَةٌ رَهَةٌ يُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا يُصْلِحُونَ. Like this village mentioned in the Quran, there were 7 people, or 8, 10, 9 people who were evildoers. Now, we know the village of Sayyidina Lut. It was an evil village. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Lut and his family from this village. وَلُوطًا آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كَانَتْ تَعْمَلُ الْخَبَائِثَ إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَوْمَ سَوْءٍ فَاسِقِينَ. Allah saved his prophet Lut from this evil village. And many of these villages have got powerful, corrupt people. And these people deny the messages that are sent to them. Now, I have taken 2 slides to mention Quranic verses about evil or bad communities. Because my thesis is, if you want to sustain health in that is good, that is wholesome, that is equitable, we need to do it at the community level. Now, bad villages denied the messengers. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا أَصْحَابُ الْقَرَةِ إِذْ جَاءَهَا الْمُرْسَلُونَ إِذْ أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهِمُ اثْنَيْنِ فَكَذَّبُوهُمَا فَعَزَّزْنَا بِثَالِثٍ فَقَالُوا إِنَّا إِلَيْكُمْ مُرْسَلُونَ. In Surah Yasin, Allah talks about bad villages refusing messages of messengers. And it's happening today. This is not history, because today we have got Quranic guidance on how to live a correct life, but many do not want to listen. And already I talked about how Allah destroyed transgressing villages. In Surah Al-Kahf, Allah says, وَتِلْكَ الْقُرَى أَهْلَكْنَاهُمْ لَمَّا ظَلَمُوا وَجَعَلْنَا لِمَهَلِكِهِمْ مَوْعِدًا. Those villages were destroyed because of their transgression. Now, sexual immorality is a common cause of ill health, both physical and mental. And you know the story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. وقال النسوة في المدينة امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها عن نفسه فقد شغفها حب. Society in Egypt, and actually in that society the corruption was so much that even women were raping men. So this is sexual immorality in bad villages. The Quran also talked about good communities. Good communities. Good communities can have sustained health because of peace and tranquility. Actually, when you listen to the news or when you read the statistics, you will see a lot of diseases spreading. You will see a lot of hunger and famine. Most of these things are because of lack of peace and lack of tranquility in the community. So the Quran talked about safe and calm villages. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا قَرْيَةٍ كَانَتْ آمِنَ مُطْمَئِنَّةً. Security and calmness. Allah talked about villages that have plenty to eat, because nutrition is very important for good health. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا ادْخُلُوا هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةَ فَكُلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ شِئْتُمْ رَغَدًا. Allah talks about a village or community that had plenty of food and plenty to eat. Again in Surah Al-Araf, Allah says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اسْكُنُوا هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةَ وَكُلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ شِئْتُمْ. Stay in this village and eat all what you want. Security, physical security is necessary for sustainable health. And Quran talks about villages that had this security. So the point is, if we want to sustain whatever we are doing, we better make sure that we avoid bad and unhealthy communities, and we develop good, healthy, peaceful, and calm communities. Now, what are the factors of sustainability from analyzing these Quranic guidelines? I think if we want to have sustained health, we need to have the niyyah, sincere niyyah, because actions depend on the niyyah. So our underlying intentions must be sincere, that really we want to have health, sustained health, for everybody, and also equitable health. As the Prophet said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. In Bukhari and Muslim, every action depends on the intention. A lot of times, at the level of governments and communities and organizations, the intention behind health programs may not be very sincere. And if it's not sincere, you not get good results out of it. The second factor to make sure that we get sustained health is to do what we can. We do the feasible. I'll be talking later about the frustration that we have promised people better health and we couldn't deliver, both at the international level from World Health Organization, from the United Nations, and also at the local level in our own countries. So part of sustaining health programs is to do what is feasible. We shouldn't try to bite more than we can chew. As Quran tells us, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not ask you to do more than what we can do. So as we plan our programs, we need to plan them to be feasible, things that we can do within our resources, because it has to be sustained. And part of this sustenance is a very important hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is being consistent. When you do things that are within your ability to do, and I think I want to emphasize this, when you are an Indonesian, you want to plan what you can do as an Indonesian. Don't start by hoping that somebody will come from outside and help you, because that has not worked in many countries. In the end, you have to do it yourself, but you do what you can within the resources available and be consistent. This is what the Prophet emphasized when he said, "Habbul amali ilallah adwamuhu wa in qal." The best work is what is consistent, even if small. Actions that can improve health can be small, simple interventions, but they will bring a good result if they are consistent, year in, year out. If we continue these actions for a long time, inshallah, they will bring a good result. I'll be showing you also some data about many slogans, many programs that have been announced at the international and local levels, but because they were not done consistently, we have not had good results. Another factor is once you start doing something good to improve health, do not stop. This is the consistency. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said to Abdullah ibn Amr, Ya Abdullah, la takun mithla fulan. Abdullah, don't be like so and so. Kana yaqumu al-layl fataraka qiyamu al-layl. He used to make qiyamu al-layl and then stop. So you notice, Qiyamul Layl is ibadah. Its effect is due to its sustainability. So you cannot start Qiyamul Layl 10 rak'ah this month, and then next month 1 rak'ah, and then the month after that nothing. It's better to have 2 rak'ah, but continue for many years. That's sustainability, and don't stop. Once you start doing a good health intervention, don't stop, continue. You need to continue until the end, because actions are judged by their end. One of the problems that we have got at the international and local levels, also ministries of health, is that we start programs and then stop, and then start new programs and then stop. Lack of consistency. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Innamal a'malu bin-niyat," that innamal amal bil khawatim, that whatever we do is judged by the end. See, your work should continue until the end, because it's only when you go on until the end that we can get a good outcome. And again, when we are doing health programs, you do your part. Do what you, it may be very small. It may be just cleaning the street. It may be just improving the water supply in a simple way in the village. Do your part. Huh? Do your part. Others will do their part, because inshallah, Allah will bring the results later on. وَقُلِ عَمَلُوا فَسَّرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. All you have to do is just do your part. And do not do anything to be seen, because Allah will see what you are doing and will reward it and will make it have a good outcome. Okay. Most important, if we want to have sustainability, we need to avoid slogans, to say things that we do not do. A lot of our health programs end up as talking only and no action. The Quran says, أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَا تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. O you believers, why do you say what you are not doing? This means we should say very little and do more. And when we speak, we should walk the talk. We should do actions that fit what we have said. Because when we say what we do not do, Allah gets angry. قَبْرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Allah gets very angry when you say things that you do not do. Now, we have now covered various Quranic guidelines on how to sustain our actions so that they bring a good outcome. And these guidelines apply to health. They also apply to many other areas. Now, I just want to talk about problems with slogans. In terms of health, we have had too many slogans, just words without actions, with the result that people get frustrated. When you come to talk to them again about health, they are not interested. We all know the Alma Ata Declaration of 1978 that promised health for all by the year 2000. It didn't happen. So health for all by the year 2000 wanted to make every individual having access to primary health care. It did not happen. So this is what causes frustration. We shouldn't say big words. We shouldn't talk about big programs. We should talk about what we can do. So where are we here? We have said, but we didn't do it. So there's public disappointment and disenchantment. And this actually may be one of the reasons that many health programs do not proceed to a good outcome, are not sustained. So as we talk about the sustenance and the UN development goals, we need to remember this. We need to walk the talk. We shouldn't talk more than we can do. But then whatever we do, we should be consistent. I'm giving you examples of themes of World Health Days since 1950. Know your health services. Health is wealth. Clean water. Destroy disease by destroying insects. Food for all. 10 years of health progress. Many of these. Malaria eradication. Accidents. Hunger. Smallpox. Health in the world of tomorrow. See, every year there is a theme that is declared. In the 1970s, early detection of cancer, diabetes, food, smallpox, immunization, many. So this is the problem. Really, we should not have too many slogans. 1980s also, we have a lot of these themes, a lot of these slogans. But the public, when they look, they see that it has not been fulfilled. So they get frustrated. And then they stop listening. They stop changing their behavior. And I say, we should go back to the Quranic guideline. If we want to sustain, we do what is feasible, what we can do. And then we do that little, but in a consistent way, and continue until the end. And that is sustainability. So actually the Quran defines sustainability in a very clear way, and the Prophet ﷺ defined it in a very clear way. We need to follow those few simple guidelines. Now this in the 2000s, again, more themes, more big words, but they do not happen. It's the whole problem. They do not happen. If we had fewer words and we actually did them, we'd do better. Now, I want now to come down to earth and talk about simple things that we can do to sustain health. Because sustained health requires behavior, but we need behavior that is sustained, behavior that people have all the time. Like, for example, to prevent infectious diseases, the Prophet taught us about covering vessels to prevent bacteria and insects from living in them. غَطُّ الْإِنَاءَ وَأَوْكُ السَّقَى. The Prophet told us to cover our vessels. The Prophet told us not to breathe into vessels, because when you breathe into vessels that have got your drinks or food, your oral bacteria may go there and grow. The Prophet told us to wash hands before and after food. This in At-Tirmidhi. Barakatu ta'am al-wudu qablahu wal-wudu ba'dahu. In fact, the Prophet talked about wudu before eating and wudu after eating. So washing hands is a behavior, if sustained, is going to prevent a lot of infectious diseases. So we need to develop these sustainable behaviors that are simple and that we can do and that we can continue for a long time. This way we'll get a sustained health outcome. In terms of obesity, we need sustained behavior to prevent obesity. As you know, obesity and overweight are related to many diseases that are part of the metabolic syndrome. So the Prophet ﷺ taught us to decrease food intake. When he said, مَا مَلَأَ آدَمِيٌّ وَأَعْشَرَّ مِنْ بَطْنِ بِحَسْبِ ابْنِ آدَمْ أكلات أكلات يقمنا صلبه فإن كان لا محالة فالثلث لطعامه والثلث لشرابه والثلث لنفسه. This is the hadith of the thirds. The Prophet says, don't fill your stomach. 1/3 is for food, 1/3 is for water, and 1/3 empty. In other words, we need to decrease intake of food to what is healthy. The problem today is that some communities don't have enough to eat, while others have too much to eat, and those with too much to eat develop diseases of malnutrition. And Quran tells us to avoid excess in food intake. Ya bani Adam, khudhu zinatakum inda kulli masjidin, wa kulu, eat, washrabu, and drink, wa la tusrifu, and do not take excesses. Inna Allah la yuhibbul musrifin. Allah doesn't want people who have excess. The point I'm trying to say is, if we are going to have sustained health, we need to have the simple behaviors, simple actions that are within our abilities, but these must be sustained. They must become a part of our life. They must be internalized. Now, treatment of disease. The Prophet said there is treatment for every disease. تَدَعُوا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ دَاءٍ إِلَّا وَقَدْ أَنزَلَ لَهُ شَفَاءً. The Prophet said that every disease has got a treatment, so search for the treatment. And Quran gives us hope, because Prophet Ayub had a very severe disease and Allah cured him. وَاذْكُرْ عَبْدَنَا أَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ إِنِّي مَسَّنِّيَ الشَّيْطَانُ بِنُصْبٍ وَعَذَابٍ ارْكُضْ بِرِجْلِكَ هَذَا مُغْتَسَلٌ بَارِدٌ وَشَرَابٌ. Ayub was advised by Allah to seek treatment, and he was able to get cured. So we need to cure diseases, starting with the simple diseases. When there is a disease, we treat it. And this must be consistent. That's how we get sustained health. Because in the end, when we take the necessary action, Allah will give us cure. وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِي. Allah is the one who cures us when we become sick. Now we need to have sustained promotion of health. See, it's not enough to prevent disease, we need also to promote health. But again, there are simple activities that, if sustained, will result in a sustained outcome. Like Umar ibn al-Khattab said, we should teach our youth to be physically active. One of the problems of today is youth sit on television, on their telephones, on their iPads, and are not physically active. The Prophet told, Abu Umar ibn al-Khattab said, "Allimu awladakum ar-rimaya was-sibah rukubul khayl." He said, teach your youths physical activities, to be physically active, like riding, like running, like throwing. The Prophet himself gave us an example of physical activity because he used to engage in foot racing. In fact, he used to compete with his wife Aisha. At the beginning, she used to beat him in running, but later on, he used to beat her in running. He used to run faster than her. So the Prophet himself was physically active. The Prophet used to climb mountains. Again, these are activities that can sustain health, but they must be sustained. This is the point. Now, so I just want to go back to the point that health can be sustained, but it must be sustained in the good village, al-Qarya al-Tayyiba. It must be activities at a community level that are sustained. Now, some of the things that we can do at the community level is to rebuild the extended family, because the extended family enables takaful, mutual self-help. And today, we are losing the extended family. People live in nuclear families, and when they get into problems, they have nobody to help them. We need to bring back the extended family system. We need to have economic justice to make sure that people have equitable benefit from the economic system. We need to have shura. At the community level, we need to consult, to discuss how to solve problems. We need to have a rule of law. We cannot have a Qarya Tayyiba when there is no rule of law. And I think we need to have self-government as much as possible. One of the problems that we are facing now is that the governments want to do everything. I think the people should do as much as possible for their own health. We should encourage them to have their health in their own hands. And government should play the role of guiding and supporting where they cannot. So we'll end here. I just want to summarize by saying that we can sustain health by following very clear guidelines from the Quran on how to work in a sustained way, and on how to work with the sincere intentions, on how to build a community, because it's a healthy community that can sustain health. It's not an individual's effort that is going to bring success. It's the whole community. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Professor Kasole, for your presentation about sustainable of health. Participant, do you have any question? Please raise your hands in the Zoom room. If you have any questions, please raise your hand in the Zoom room. Okay, I have a question actually, Professor.
Yes.
For example, if we already stay or live in the bad environment area, what we should do, because you said that in the making a sustainable, health sustainable, we have to live in the good environment.
Yes. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. A good community is brought about by a few, not many, by a few good people in that community doing the right thing. So, if you are in a bad environment, take action to improve that environment. It can be as an individual, but better as a group. We need to identify what is wrong, diagnose it very well, and try to improve it, and try to convince everybody in the community to change to a better community. Because as long as the environment, social and physical environment is not good, we cannot have good health. So we need to take action. And I think everybody should have this idea in mind that our aim is to get Al-Qarya Tayyiba. We want to get the good village, Al-Qarya Tayyiba, that the Quran has mentioned. And both people and leaders should aim at this, getting a good community, inshallah.
Okay, so we should start in individual or better in some group to make a change in the environment to get a better community, right, Professor?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have guidelines. I have given you enough guidelines from the Quran and Sunnah on how to work well in a sustained way and until we get the good outcome. It's important to emphasize walking the talk. Don't say what you cannot do. It means we need to think of simple, feasible, possible actions that can improve health, can sustain health, but do them in a consistent way. Not start and stop, not to start and stop.
Okay, thank you, Professor Castle, for your answer. And you said that so many slogans from WHO or maybe from the countries, start from 50 until now, it's very change in every year. So the community get frustrated because it's always fail. Do you have better suggestion for that? So the community will not get frustrated with the slogan?
Yes. I think we should stop the slogans. The assumption is that slogans will motivate people. But when they are not fulfilled, they become more demotivated. So I think we should stop too much sloganeering. We should say a few things and do them. So people actually see that we have got this program, we've continued for 5 years, for even 30 years, but that it has brought about a change. In this way, people will have confidence in health leaders. We should stop saying what we cannot achieve. We should only say what we can achieve and can sustain in order to get the confidence of the people.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Professor Kasule. Okay, participant, do you have any question for Professor Omar Kasule?
Yes, I have.
Yes, please, with Mrs.
Rita.
Rita, okay, please.
Yeah. Professor, in Indonesia, we have a lot of local culture. And the people, they think some of the traditional culture is related to the health. What do you think about this? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Many traditional cultures actually are good. And I think we need to discover which ones are good. And also we can do some research on some aspects to have data. And it doesn't mean that the solutions will always come from outside. There are already good things in our communities that we need to emphasize and we need to use. And I think many of them have been neglected. So yeah, I agree. We should look into our cultures for what can sustain health and then do it in a sustained way.
Okay, Mrs. Rita, do you have the answer?
Yeah, like in Papua, they have a lot of traditional culture when for the woman when they have a child, they have to traditional traditional activity practices, yes. And then sometimes they culture is merupakan hambatan gitu ya. Merupakan hambatan untuk program yang ada di kesehatan.
Hindrance the program.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my English is very
okay.
True.
Yeah.
So the
yeah,
culture,
true.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, some traditional practices are not good. Yeah. So we should look for those that are good, and we should have evidence. We need to have this backed up by evidence and follow those traditional practices that are good and that lead to good health. The bad ones, I think we need to avoid them. So if they are bad ones that injure health, we need to avoid them. And I think the communities can understand this, especially if we can tell them with evidence. The people can change.
Okay. So we
Thank
have
you
to...
the information.
Okay, Mrs. Rita, thank you for your questions. So we have to choose, we have to select which one is traditional practice is good, which one traditional practices is bad. Okay. Everyone, is there any questions? Okay, if you don't have any questions, maybe I can sum up the presentation of Professor Kasule. I noticed that dua is part of building health sustainable. And then Professor also said that step by step to make health sustainable, start with sincere intention, do what you can, doing the right things, even if small, do not stop doing a good thing, and then continue until the end, and then do your part, the result, do not say what you do not do. So it's very good morality, and all of them is in the Quran. Okay, Professor, thank you for your presentation for today. It's very interesting, and we have insight for your presentation. And the committee, as an appreciation, will give you a certificate for your contribution as a speaker in International Conference on Health Sciences 2022. Please show the certificate for Professor Kasule. Thank you, Professor. I pray, or we pray, you are always in a good health, inshallah. Amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you very much. Give an applause. Okay, now we have already in the end of the plenary session. I, as a moderator, do apologize for your inconvenience in the second day of plenary session. And thank you very much for being a wonderful participant during this session. Hopefully to see you again real soon. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much to Mrs. Dewi Utami Iriani, PhD, for awesomely leading the plenary session today. And now we would like to give you a certificate for your contribution as a moderator. Here it is, the certificate to Mrs. Dewi Utami Iriani, PhD.
Okay, please accept the certificate, Mrs. Dewi Utami Iriani. We also like to thank all speakers and participants for your attention and participation in this plenary session. We hope the knowledge shared and discussion held will give benefit to all of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to remind you that our next session after the break will be the concurrent session that will be divided into 3 rooms, focusing on public health, nursing, and pharmacy.
For the offline participants, please come to room 1 for pharmacy, room 2 for public health, but this time, room 2 will be divided into 2 break rooms with 1 moderator in each room. So please pay attention to the moderator's name. And room 3 for nursing. To the online participant, please click on the links for each room in the chat boxes.
Until then, we will have a break for 1 hour. Please use this time to relax and refresh your mind so that by 1 p.m. you will be in prime condition. Have a nice break.
Halo, 1, 2, 3. Ya, kepada peserta yang offline nanti jangan lupa ya, kuncinya ditunggu